Hello there, dear friend. Thanks for making time to watch this. One of the most common topics that is spoken about and has also been written about is leadership. And I wanted to share some thoughts that is also based or a follow up of a conversation that I had with some emerging leaders in a church as we were challenging ourselves on how we can become better leaders. Now, what is leadership? Allow me to offer some two definitions that formed our conversation. One is that leadership is about moving people, yourself included, from one scenario, from one setup to another, preferably one that is better. And by the way, that is why we have great leaders and those that are not so great. Those that have moved their countries, moved their communities from one state to another one, which was better. The second definition that I want to use is that leadership is about taking responsibility to work so that your community or your constituents can achieve what matters most to them at that point. Now, if you think about this, there is work that is involved, there's knowledge of the current circumstances, and there is achieving of a certain circumstance that is better. And perhaps then you're asking yourself is, how does this play in when it comes to me becoming a better leader? Now, if you think about it, how do you cause people to be able to do what you've asked them to do? It is what we talk about. How do you influence? Because to influence is to affect the way people think and the way they behave. Now, you need power. Now, of course, power in many instances is not perhaps used positively, but power is actually positive. It's something that you need to be able to lead. Now, there are two broad categories of power. There's what we call positional power. Now, positional power is power that is leveraging on your position. It's power that uses your title. It uses structures of the organization, and it's something that you point to or refer to when you want people to do something. You tell them, you know what, I am the leader here, or I am the senior manager here, and this is the direction I've said that you have taken. So if you think about it, it works sometimes, but it is said that it works largely from a compliance perspective. The people are doing what they are doing because they have to, or it is something that you are basically pushing people so that they do it. On the other hand, we have what we call personal power. Now, personal power is about you leveraging on personal characteristics. Now, some of the personal characteristics that you can use is you care about people. When you care about people, you form a relationship with them. When you form a relationship with them, then it means they give you permission to lead them so that you can tell them what to do, and they will follow what you have told them to do. But personal power also includes using your competence or your experience. In other words, you have things that you have done in the past. You have a history of success. And so they are following you based on your competence. But also, your personal power is based on your character, the consistency, the integrity, the honesty, the diligence, and all these personal characteristics. You are employing that to use them. And no, so if positional power is about making people comply or pushing them, then personal power is about pulling people. In other words, drawing people to yourself. Actually, in the conversation that you're having with the emerging leaders, we are saying, how do I develop my capacity so that I can draw other people to follow me willingly? Because in the case where you're using positional power, the people are following you because they have to, not necessarily because they are willing to follow you. So How then do I build my personal power? Now, building your personal power is an interplay of three things. One, self-discovery. Self-discovery is about knowing who you are, why you're here, what you can do, and where you're perhaps going. If you think about it, it's about knowing yourself in such a way that becomes almost magnetic to other people because you have clarity, but also it is knowing yourself in a way that compels you to do something. You know, if you have a mission that you want to accomplish in your life, in all honesty, you will work hard at it. You will get yourself working. If you don't have any, then you will do nothing. Now, if you know, for example, that you have a certain identity that you want to express, you will work at it. And so the first element of building your personal power is discovering who you are and what your life is supposed to be about. The second component is deployment. Deployment is putting your abilities to work. And by the way, when you put your abilities to work, what happens is that it actually helps you in the discovery process. A lot of discovery process may be paperwork, but real discovery is when you deploy yourself. When you deploy yourself, you'll realize that you have certain gaps, and it will push you to the third step, which is development. And development is about growing yourself, addressing the gaps that you have. And when you address those gaps that you have, you get better. So if you think about it, therefore, leadership is not a preserve of a few people. It's something that all of us can grow into, right? And how do you do that? Is recognizing that I have personal power, I have capacity to influence other people, and I can grow this capacity, or I can grow this capacity when I discover who I am. I can grow this capacity when I deploy myself to work. I can grow this capacity when I develop myself. And that means intentionally positioning myself to learn, intentionally positioning myself to be better at what I do. And in that way, I get better. And so there you have it. We can lead, we can move with people, we can deploy ourselves to the circumstances and achieve what matters most. But in order to do that, we must have the power, we must have the capacity to do that. That capacity comes when you discover who you are and what you are about. That capacity comes when you deploy yourself and get working, get better at your craft. And the development is what closes the gap. And so developing your capacity to lead others is not a course that you'll attend. It's actually a lifelong commitment to growth that makes you better, so that you can not only live better, but you can lead better. Thank you for making time for this. See you on the next one. God bless.